Welcome back to the channel, Popman Dupe Troop. Okay, how's that one? I feel so ridiculous doing this. Okay, cringy intros aside, let's talk about why you're here. Oh, could it possibly be because, I don't know, Tarkov is one of the most overwhelming FPS shooters of our time? Like, it is so unstarter friendly, and perhaps you didn't know how to get your beginning in it, how to get it going. Not to fret. I'm here to tell you how to do just that. And I'm going to take all this knowledge of Tarkov I have up in this brain of mine, I'm going to wrap it up for you, and I'm going to give it to you in easy to understand, digestible pieces. And I don't know, maybe if you ask me nicely, I'll throw a bow on top just for you. Just for you. Okay, let's get to the video. This is getting a little weird.
All of you! What the hell is even that?
Let's begin the video by talking about what Tarkov even is, because it's a lot different than most games. I would describe it as a first-person realistic shooter with looting and survival elements. At a very basic level, the game goes like this. You go into a raid, which is a match, and your goal is to loot. You can loot stuff that spawns on the map, you can kill players and AI to loot what they have. Basically just loot, that's what you're there for. You then go to a specific area within the allotted amount of time to leave the raid, and once you leave, you can sell that loot, keep it for future use, craft with it, or complete some quests. Rinse and repeat. If that sounds intriguing, keep watching and we'll get into the deets. With the first thing that I want to touch on being the inventory system in the game. I think that this is possibly the biggest thing that separates Tarkov from all the other shooters. It's that your gear, which includes armor, guns, ammo, healing items, food, etc., all of that is stored in one central stash. You pick what your character's loadout is and you put that gear on the line. You have to balance risk and reward, because if you die and someone takes your stuff, chances are it's gone and you'll never see it again. There is one way to get it back, which is to insure items, which means that if you die and your stuff is still in the raid by the time the clock strikes 0, then you'll get it back in a few hours. And yes, the detail for the inventory system is insane. You manage items of different sizes in your bags and vests. Not to mention, you have to choose what ammo to take, and you have to manually pack your mags, one bullet at a time. It is very similar to DayZ in that regard. Now, we can't go talking about your inventory and your stash without telling you how to fill that up with some delicious loot. When you start up the game for the first time, you'll be able to choose which faction you want to be in. There's Bear and there's USEC. Bears are this game's Russian faction, while USEC is the American faction. And these don't really change much. The only differences is cosmetics you can wear and what language your voice lines are in, but they also change what items you start with in your stash. Understandably, the Bears inventories start with lots of AKs and Russian gear, while the USECs start with lots of M4s and American gear. Now, your job with that starter gear is to go out and loot. And you can get loot all over the maps. You just need to learn the specific spawns if you want certain things, and it can vary from toilet paper to weapons and armor. But digging through piles of trash isn't the only way to get loot. You can also kill other players or scavs, and we'll talk about the difference between those two later. But once you kill them, you can take everything off of them. Everything that is except armbands and their melee weapons. And I think compasses now? Didn't they just add compasses? Yeah, and compasses. Now, if there's a particularly good piece of loot, you can put it in your secure container, and anything that goes in here will come back with you even if you die. However, there is a catch. Some items that are very rare can't be put into it, along with large sums of money. They also will lose their found in raid status if you die in the raid. And found in raid status is just this little check mark on the items that verify that you found them in the raid and they weren't just bought or brought out after you died. Anything you bring into a raid will lose its found in raid status, and many quest items require that status, and you aren't able to sell anything on the flea market without it either. Now, to get found in raid status, you need to find the item in a raid, which is self-explanatory, but you also need to survive it. And that doesn't mean that you can just get the thing and then immediately run to the extract. That'll count as a run through, not as a survive, and it'll strip your loot of its found in raid status, so it won't count towards quests, and you can't sell it on the flea market. Now, to make your run count as survived instead of a run through, you need to get at least 600 XP, which can be got by killing scavs, killing players, looting, yada yada yada. Everything gets you XP basically. Or you can just spend 10 minutes in the raid. Just don't go getting too attached to your gear, because every once in a while when there's a major update, they wipe everyone's profiles. Yeah, that's all your gear, XP, quest progress, everything. And this is largely due to the fact that this game is in beta and it's not even really that close to full release yet. So they don't want big updates making things easier or harder for people mid-wipe. However, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Many players really look forward to the wipe because no one's running meta OP god gear. Everyone's starting with pistols and low tier rifles, so it makes the game more fun and more intense. You may already be familiar with wipes if you play games like Rust, because they do something very similar every week. In Tarkov, you're given two ways to play the game, and that's PMC runs or scav runs. Your PMC run is where you choose your loadout from your stash and you risk that gear. But scav runs start you out with a random loadout and they don't take anything from your stash. They also spawn you into raids later so that you have less PMCs to deal with. All other AI scavs will be friendly to you unless you attack another scav, but be careful because other player scavs can and probably will kill you. There's no honor among scavs in this game, and that's especially so if you're moving like a PMC and not like an AI. Scavs also have different extracts than PMCs and a lot more, so that they have better chances of escaping. If you successfully extract your scav, you can keep whatever fits into your stash, but you don't get any XP from scav runs and they don't count towards quests. They're there for you when you just need to make some money because your normal stash isn't cutting it anymore. And to prevent players from only doing scav runs, there is a 20-minute timer in between them. If you don't want to run a PMC in that time, I recommend you give the offline mode a try. It's a great way to learn your extracts and to test the recoil on guns that you're too afraid to take into a real online raid yet. Just keep in mind, if you get some sick loot in that offline raid, you're not going to keep it and you're not going to keep any XP. It's purely for practice purposes. Now on to what I think is the most important and challenging thing to learn in the game: extracts. Because you can be an expert killing machine who shreds everyone in milliseconds, but if you don't know your extract points, you can't get out with that juicy loot. The only way to get out of a raid with your loot is to go to an extraction point. Now, if you just wait around for that timer to end, you're gonna die and you're gonna lose everything you had. I've learned from experience. Now, how do you even know where those extracts are? Well, I hate to break it to you, but you just have to learn them. Look up some maps and learn the areas. There's no HUD to show you where to go, or who your friends are, or how much ammo you have in your mags. I'm not kidding. You have to, pull the mag out and eyeball it. It's really rough, but it is on you to learn the maps. And I hate to break it to you, but every map has a different set of extracts, and not all of them are immediately usable. Some are only open for short periods of time, and some require special keys or money to use. There's even a few that require you to do a few tasks beforehand. To see which extracts you can use, just double tap your O key and it'll tell you. There's always gonna be one that you can get without any special requirements. And the best way to learn the extracts is just to watch some YouTube videos about them. That's what I did, and that's what most people do. Just go test them out on an offline raid until you have them memorized. And I'll have some links to the YouTube videos that I use to see the extracts in the description. Alright, it's time to talk about the guns and the armor. And this game has some of the most realistic guns and armor of any game I've seen on the market. People that are in real life military situations have been recreating their kits and weapons in Tarkov because there's just so much modability to them. This isn't no Call of Duty gunsmith. You don't just pick the sight and slap it on. That's not the modability I'm talking about. In Tarkov, you can replace almost every single piece of the weapon, and it is in a great amount of detail. You would not believe how annoying it is when you first start to get a cool sight and be like, I'm gonna put that on my AK, and then you realize, oh, I have to buy a 2,000 ruble adapter just to get it to work. Oh wait, I forgot. I also need a different dust cover so I can actually attach it to it. And the modding is not exclusive to guns. You can also do it to some pieces of armor. For example, the Fast MT, you can change mandibles, visors, and night vision goggles if you want. At this point, you're probably wondering, okay, is looting really the only thing that there is to Tarkov? And the answer to that is, of course, no. No one would play it if that was all that there was. There's actually a task system where you're given specific quests to do in exchange for rewards and to unlock new guns. You can find your first few right here. And if you're unsure about what you're supposed to do for a quest, look it up on YouTube. Just like with the extracts, there's tons of super detailed tutorials online, and they will help you get it done. So at this point, I can understand if you're thinking, this game sounds terrible and way too complicated, or this game sounds super fun and I want to play it now, or possibly a mix of the two. Now, the fact of the matter is that Tarkov is super hardcore and it does not help new players at all. There isn't even a tutorial or skill-based matchmaking. You go in and that's how it is. You just dive in headfirst, and it sucks so hard if you're new. You will die so often and you will be so frustrated. But that's just how learning goes. If you just keep playing and keep trying to learn new things, I guarantee that the game will get easier and you'll have more success. And that doesn't mean that you won't get destroyed. You will get obliterated, and very often. But when you get your first kill on that fat, sweaty player and you get out with their sweet loot, it's just an adrenaline rush you can't get from any other game. And the most important thing to remember if you're going to pick this game up is that you are going to die and lose expensive gear constantly. That is the game. You need to learn to laugh off these deaths and to get right back at it. If you give yourself the time to learn this game, it will quickly become an experience you just can't match anywhere else. Alright, and I think that's going to be a great place to end off the video. Thank you for watching, and thanks to Tarkov for just being a great game that I'm addicted to. You should play it, because then I won't feel so alone in my addictions. And we can't end a video off without saying be sure to like and subscribe, because I'm going to be putting these videos out every week, every Friday. So keep an eye out for those. We're starting to really get into the swing of things. We got some nice lighting going, even though it's my monitors and my mom's lamp. And we got a P now. Probably somewhere around here. It's a P for Potman Dupes. That's pretty cool. Anyways, have a good one, guys. I'll see ya.